You're standing outside on a cold morning, and suddenly your arms are covered in tiny bumps, every hair standing straight up like it's trying to escape your skin. Or maybe it's not the cold at all. Maybe it's a song hitting that one note, or a scene in a movie, or someone telling a story that gives you chills for no reason you can explain. Your skin just reacts, instantly, involuntarily. And here's the strange part. You have absolutely no control over it. You can't consciously make your arm hair stand up on command, and you can't stop it once it starts. So what exactly is your body doing? And why does it still do this when there's clearly nothing to be afraid of? Let's start with the mechanism itself, because it's honestly kind of wild once you see it up close. Every single hair on your body sits inside a tiny pocket called a follicle, and attached to that follicle is a microscopic muscle called the erector pili. When your nervous system sends a signal, that tiny muscle contracts, and it physically yanks the hair upright, which pushes up the skin around it into a small bump. You're not imagining it. You have thousands of these tiny muscles all over your body, and for one brief moment, all of them fire at once, completely outside your conscious control. Now here's where it gets genuinely fascinating, because goosebumps are what scientists call a vestigial reflex, meaning it's a leftover behavior from an ancestor who actually needed it, and we just never lost the wiring. Think about almost any mammal you've ever seen scared or cold. A cat puffing up its fur, a dog's hackles rising along its spine, a porcupine standing its quills on end. In animals covered in thick fur, raising the hair does two very real jobs. First, it traps a thicker layer of air near the skin, which works as insulation, keeping the animal warmer in the cold. Second, it makes the animal look physically bigger, which is an old and surprisingly effective trick for bluffing a predator into thinking twice. Your ancestors, going back millions of years before modern humans existed, had that same thick body hair, and that same reflex kept them warm and made them look more intimidating when something dangerous showed up. Then evolution did something a little inconvenient. Humans gradually lost most of their body hair, but the muscle, the nerve pathway, the entire reflex arc stayed completely intact. Nobody bothered to switch it off. So when you're freezing today, your body still tries to fluff up hair that mostly isn't there anymore, which is honestly kind of a design flaw. But evolution doesn't clean up after itself. It just leaves old code running in the background. But cold isn't even the interesting part, because goosebumps happen for reasons that have nothing to do with temperature at all. Fear works the exact same way. Your amygdala, the part of your brain tied to threat detection, can trigger the identical reflex when you're startled or scared. Same tiny muscles, same instant reaction. No thick fur required. And this is where things get genuinely strange, because the same reflex also fires during music, during a powerful moment in a film, even during an emotional memory that catches you off guard. Researchers have a name for this specific version. They call it frisson, and it appears to be tied to a rush of dopamine in your brain's reward pathway, the exact same chemical involved in pleasure and anticipation. So somehow, your body uses one ancient involuntary muscle reflex to represent both danger and beauty, both cold and awe, both fear and the goosebumps you get from a song you love. That's not a coincidence. That's a leftover survival circuit being repurposed by a much newer, much more complicated emotional brain. One that didn't bother building something new, it just plugged straight into the wiring that was already there. Which brings us back to you, standing there with your arms covered in bumps, not entirely sure why. Maybe it was the cold. Maybe it was the song. Either way, somewhere underneath your skin, a muscle older than your species just fired off exactly like it would have for an ancestor standing in the wind millions of years ago, trying to look a little bigger, feel a little warmer, and survive one more night. Your body never forgot. It just found new reasons to remember.